In modern Indian politics, there is a specific insult frequently hurled by opposition leaders at Jayajirao Scindia and his family. They call them historic traitors. The roots of this label run deep. For decades, schoolchildren have memorized Subhadra Kumari Chauhan's famous poem about the warrior queen Rani Lakshmibai. Embedded in those verses is a stinging line. The friends of the British, the Scindias, abandoned their capital. You might expect a family carrying a 160-year-old stigma of treason to quietly fade into obscurity. Instead, the Scindias remain one of the most successful political dynasties in democratic India. This grip on power isn't localized to one person. Over the last several decades, members of the Scindia family have occupied top cabinet positions and shaped the highest levels of leadership within both the Congress Party and the BJP. To understand how they survive, we have to look past the political insults and the poetry. We need to examine a 300-year playbook of extreme, calculated pragmatism. The Scindias did not start out as entitled royalty. They belonged to the Kunbi caste, beginning their journey as modest farmers and village headmen, known as Patils, in Maharashtra. Their rise began with Ranoji Scindia, a soldier whose absolute loyalty to the Maratha Peshwa earned him command. A generation later, his son Mahadji Scindia barely survived the 1761 massacre at Panipat, rescued from the battlefield by a water carrier after a crippling injury. Mahadji spent his recovery rebuilding Maratha power. Recognizing that traditional cavalry was obsolete against European tactics, he hired French commanders to build a modern, disciplined army with 500 cannons. British generals soon labeled this force the single greatest threat to their expansion in India. If the Scindias forged their empire through fierce combat and defending Maratha sovereignty, why did they allegedly turn their backs on Rani Lakshmibai and the 1857 rebellion? When the 1857 rebellion swept across central India, the ruler of Gwalior, Jayajirao Scindia, was just 22 years old. The British demanded his support, while the rebels, including Rani Lakshmibai, marched toward his territory. Jayajirao faced a brutal military dilemma. If he openly joined the rebellion and handed his massive, modern army over to the mutineers, his forces would be slaughtered by superior British artillery, and his entire kingdom would be razed to the ground. He chose a third option. Rather than fighting alongside the British or arming the rebellion, Jayajirao confined his mutinous troops strictly within his own borders, keeping them out of the direct line of fire. British historian T.R.E. Holmes documented the result of this delay. By holding his forces back in a state of deliberate inaction, Jayajirao prevented Gwalior from provoking a direct, annihilating military retaliation from the British forces. Meanwhile, away from the battlefields, historical records indicate Jayajirao quietly offered refuge and safe passage to the women and families of the rebels, sheltering them in Agra. Jayajirao accepted the stain on his personal historical reputation. He calculated that appearing complicit to the British was the necessary price to keep his army intact and save his people from total destruction. Surviving the 1857 rebellion allowed the Scindia family to maintain their immense wealth and power. They poured it into regional development, building vast railway networks, modern hospitals, and colleges, cementing deep loyalty among their subjects. When India gained independence in 1947, royal titles and privileges were eventually abolished. To maintain their influence, the Scindias had to step out of the palace and win democratic elections. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru recognized the family's massive sway over voters and personally coerced Rajmata Vijayaraje Scindia to run under the Congress Party banner. But in 1966, when a Congress chief minister undermined her authority and mishandled local student protests, Rajmata walked away. She defected, took 35 MLAs with her, toppled the state government, and went on to become a founding member of the BJP. Her defection deployed the exact same strategy her ancestor used in 1857. She prioritized regional control and her own political leverage over blind loyalty to a powerful institution. Following Rajmata's exit, the family divided its political assets. By splitting allegiances, they ensured influence regardless of which party controlled the government. On the BJP side, the strategy flourished. Rajmata's daughter, Vasundhara Raje, built a formidable base, becoming Rajasthan's first female chief minister. On the Congress side, Rajmata's son, Madhavrao Scindia, built his own empire. He became wildly popular, served as Minister of Railways, and was widely considered a very strong candidate for Prime Minister. But political leverage offers no immunity from internal party politics. In 1996, the Congress Party High Command sidelined Madhavrao, denying him an election ticket amidst the intense Hawala scandal allegations. 5 years later, Madhavrao died suddenly in a plane crash. The sudden loss of the C-90 aircraft over Uttar Pradesh fueled public whispers and controversies, leaving a massive power vacuum in the region. Even at the absolute height of their democratic power, the family was always vulnerable to sudden tragedy and party betrayal. The next generation would have to adapt quickly to survive. Madhavrao's son, Jyotiraditya Scindia, stepped into the political arena at just 30 years old. He spent the next 19 years serving the Congress Party, winning his father's seat by record margins in every election. Yet, history repeated itself. Despite his regional popularity and electoral wins, Jyotiraditya found himself increasingly marginalized and sidelined by the Congress High Command. In 2020, he executed a calculated exit. Jyotiraditya defected to the BJP, taking his loyalist MLAs with him and ultimately bringing down the Madhya Pradesh state government, a precise mirror of his grandmother's maneuver 54 years earlier. Today, the fourth democratic generation is already visible. His son, Aryaman Scindia, frequently appears at public events and campaign rallies, stepping into the public eye to secure the family's future. From the battlefields of Panipat to the halls of parliament, the Scindias learned that permanent loyalty to a single empire or political party is a liability. They survive by adapting, prioritizing the longevity of their legacy and the prosperity of their region,